Welcome back to another episode of the Blockbuster Brothers. Today we're talking about something a little bit different. We're talking about a series we've covered before on Netflix, Eternaut, the Argentinian series. Well, we did just wrap up, but there is some news that just came out about Eternaut and using AI in terms of its production and their 15 million production and how they were able to get it done. Stephen, you got a little bit more information for this?
I do for sure. And it's funny to look back on those older episodes we made because we were like, the VFX look amazing. Okay, so Netflix admits it used generative AI in one of its original shows, big sci-fi hit, The Eternaut, to cut costs. According to Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO, using AI was 10 times faster than traditional VFX and at a cost that made it possible to include in the show at all. He said the result wouldn't have been achievable using standard workflows. This announcement comes less than 2 years after the 2023 Hollywood strikes, where writers and actors demanded guardrails around AI and creative work. Now, Netflix saying, hey, we're not using this to cut out jobs of the artists and stuff. But it certainly feels that might be the result. It's kind of a strange thing, right? When the results of that generative AI looked so good and was so convincing and did such a good job, it's very hard to say, well, we can't use this, when it does, in fact, achieve such an awesome result.
And I think that the question is, and I know that there's a lot of people, again, AI is a hugely controversial subject. It is replacing and filling in roles that potentially could be and definitely are filled by visual effects artists and artists from all over the world. I think the question is, does this enable more work to be done? Does this give studios that otherwise would have gotten the red light instead of the green light to go ahead? So, I guess you could think about it in the sense that, hey, yeah, there are, they're doing generative fill in the background, I presume, and please, if anybody has more information on this, that, it's not completely done with AI, it's generative fill, with they're filling in areas, baseline, Michael Bay theory of providing a few, practical effects in the near ground and then using special effects in the background. So in essence, again, we don't have the full story here, and obviously don't have behind the scenes working with the visual effects. And maybe it'd be interesting to figure out the team that did it and to see how exactly they went about this. But this is paid work that people have to do. And if the AI cuts some time and gets them under budget, I guess we have to look at the question of, I think the problem is when studios that do have the money opt to use this. But again, I think the question is if AI can allow for more movies to be made in a cheaper budget and allow for more jobs to be there, I hope that, in a perfect world, this would even out with smaller studios be able to compete with bigger studios because they can work in tandem with the AI. If we're producing the same amount of projects using AI, then we're just at a job loss. But if with AI we're able to 10x the number of movies, then I think hopefully those numbers, obviously we'd have to do the math out, but hopefully those more movies would lead for more jobs. And even though there's less jobs on the movies, there's more movies being made, hence more jobs. So, the individual projects are less bloated, but, if more projects are green-lighted because of that, then I think that that's the only way that this is a win. This is another tool. Honestly, we're not cutting up film anymore, putting the celluloid pieces together. We're already editing. So I guess are we really going to attack all of technology here? I think we have to get to a point where this is a tool. And I think that, of course, there needs to be some regulations in place that I think that, artists shouldn't be, let's say Disney, they love this one artist, and instead of working with them, they get AI to teach on their platform they teach the AI this artist's work, and now like it's a ripoff. I think again there needs to be some guidelines in place, but if this can facilitate more movies being made and providing more jobs, even though AI might be part of it, I think that this is a reality. Is either we're going to let this AI control us and become something that is a negative and detriment to the film industry, or we can find a ways to make this positive. And obviously I hope, and it hasn't necessarily been the case, but I hope that the case is that this serves the film community and allows for more independent projects to be done at a higher level, and therefore allow for a proliferation of movies being made, which therefore negates the loss of on the individual projects of the artist not being hired by them, there being just a surplus of movies being made. So this is pretty setting precedent for projects in the future. Of course, they didn't outright say this in the beginning because it's very polarizing. I don't know how this would have affected how the show performed, but it goes to show that it's unrecognizable, because after the fact we were praising this and the production studios in Argentina, and I still think that they need credit. The credit is due there, but this is the reality of the medium and the industry right now, and AI is here to stay, as we can see. I'm gonna continue to be a glass half full and say, as creatives, we have to make sure we fight for those regulations, but don't be afraid to embrace these tools, and don't let these tools become crutches. Just allow them to help supplement and support the artist in their work, because we know visual artists are getting overworked. They're getting grinded away. So if there's a way that visual effects can still have a proliferation of jobs out there and make their job easier, without depleting the talent. Again, this is an art form. We need the talent to be there. So this shouldn't be replacing the talent. This should be supplementing it. So that's my little rant for that. Obviously, feel free to disagree. Been wrong about many things.
No, I think you're right, and I think art specifically needs to be human first. So if it's human first with the assistance and help of tools, then I think we're going to be okay. So that is the Eternaut, folks. We just found out this news. It's hilarious that we were praising it so much, because you know what? They did a heck of a job on that generative AI, whatever that was. So folks, we have some other episodes on the Eternaut if you want to check that out, but we appreciate you watching. That has been the Blockbuster Brothers.